Hey everyone, welcome to the B-Side Breakdown. My name is Brett Johnson and I am your host. This is episode 28 of a podcast where I talk with other artists, musicians, and songwriters about a song they've written that's meaningful to them that they want to discuss on this episode. Today I'm going to be talking with Jeff Berman from the band Divided Heaven about their song Living Funeral. It's a great song and I can't wait for you to hear it. So let's get into it. Here is Living Funeral by Divided Heaven.
What are we watching? What are we waiting for? Said the face inside of my home. What are we watching? What are we waiting for? I've seen all I need to know. 15 minutes is enough for conspiracies. Not enough time for not bounds. Modern complex spotted in methamphetamines. Mentality of a mom. Sisters singing with me, late stage dress rehearsal, death gone living funeral. What are we watching? What are we waiting for? Send this talking and inside my phone. You got no shame, just bullets and cocaine, and your God's flame will kill us all. Jacking off to the kink of your infamy, sailing in for a TV size, jailing up to your fashions and fantasies, silence and the gown. Sing it with me. Brothers and sisters, sing it with me. Late stage dress rehearsal, death gone living funeral. Late stage dress rehearsal, death gone living funeral. Late stage dress rehearsal for the fall. Death gone living funeral. Late stage dress rehearsal, death gone living funeral. Empire in memoriam. Oh.
All right, and that was Living Funeral by Divided Heaven. We're going to take a quick break and come back to talk with Jeff Berman about the song, so please stay with us and we'll be right back. All right, and we're back. Let's bring in Jeff Berman to talk about the song Living Funeral from the band Divided Heaven. Hey, Jeff, thank you for taking the time this evening to talk with me about the song.
Thank you very much. Happy to be here.
Absolutely. I'd love to, as soon as I first heard this, I'm like, man, this is infectious. Like it's just been kind of running around. There's so many hooks in it. And for me, it just kind of keeps coming across my brain. And I just sort of get stoked every time I get to turn it back on. So I can't wait to hear from you. Yeah, absolutely. I want to hear from you, what's going on with the song and why is the song meaningful to you? Please.
Man, it's a loaded question. What's
Awesome.
going on with the song? There's a lot going on. But I'll speak to the earworm factor that you were alluding to just a moment ago. That
Yeah.
was purposeful. I am very proud of the Divided Heaven catalog, and I'm currently working on my 6th record, which is crazy to say out loud. If I look back objectively at the songs that I've written, I tend to be guilty of writing songs that have, choruses that are very long-winded and maybe they're really poetic and they're lyrically poignant, but the melodies that carry them aren't as memorable. And what I've been trying to do in my songwriting recently is really create and craft melodies that are memorable, that you will sing to yourself on the toilet, in the shower, when you're driving, and this song purposefully has like three or four specific elements that I wanted to really repeat on purpose and drive home from a melodic recognition and recall point of view. So I'm glad to hear that you said it was infectious. That was the goal.
There's this ferocity I find in your verses too, just the way that you're singing it and the lyrics and the content of it all. And it's just, I don't know, it's so upfront and I love that. I mean, it just feels really like, well, this is what this is, and it just kind of doesn't leave a whole lot to be, well, it could subjectively be about something else maybe, but it just really feels like it's pretty
No,
clear what you're
can't.
talking about. So,
Who are we kidding? Before we
right.
get into the lyrics, I will say that I have a really good focus group in my house, and that is that I have a 3-year-old son,
Yeah,
and I started working on this song at some point when he was 1 and starting to formulate words and to articulate, you know, baby talk and things like that.
sure.
And I recognized that he was singing the ooh, ooh, oh yeah. He was doing that onto himself, unbeknownst to me, prompting. If I was playing the guitar in front of him, he might say, "Oh, play a woohoo song or something." But even when I didn't have the guitar, in my hands or on my lap, he would still be singing it occasionally, and I took that as a good sign of, in crafting an element within the song that doesn't even have, lyrics. It's just vocalisms,
Yep,
but they're effective from a memorability standpoint.
definitely. Very much so. Very much so. What about the rest of so I'm interested. Tell me a bit about, before we get too far down this rabbit hole, tell me a bit about Divided Heaven. So is this just strictly a you project, or is this a band? Is it kind of, what's going on with this?
Depends on who you ask. I've
Sure.
I've worked really hard over the years to make it more of a collective.
Okay.
My manager thinks that that's hippie bullshit, and it's just not true. And Divided Heaven is Jeff Berman, and I think he's right. I mean, that's what it is, and I say that whilst trying to not be dismissive of the great musicians that have played in the band with me. But
Hmm.
I'd say the numerical breakdown is about 75% of all the touring that I've done over the past 14 years for Divided Heaven
Yep.
has been solo, and the remaining has been with a band. And that band has been kind of a rotating cast, in part because I wanted to tour so much. It was a drag and a pull on a lot of people's schedules. So
Sure.
there was always kind of a rotating cast of bass players that were on the records, a rotating cast of bass players that were in the van and on the road with us.
Yep.
Most of the drumming, most of the time, I worked with my drummer Nick, and I think that's what people associate, like from a branding standpoint. When people think of Divided Heaven, either they think of it as me or they think of it as me and Nick Moriali, who was my longtime drummer and still is. Like, he's going to be on songs on the new record. This song, however, is really special to me because the drummer is my friend Carl Wiersbicki. We're both from the same small city, Lancaster, Pennsylvania. We both left as soon as we could. We both lived in LA for a long time. We both, did the touring thing, but
Yep.
we never played in a band together. We never wrote or recorded together. And this song, Living Funeral, is the showcase of our first work together. And it's very exciting that, somebody that I've known since I was 15, we're now getting together and doing this when we're 42. I think it speaks to the longevity and genuine interest and admiration that Carl and I have for each other. Um, and also our desire to still be creating interesting and dangerous rock and roll music in our 40s.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So you both respectively. So okay, you've known each other since you were 15, and you didn't play music in Lancaster back then, that wasn't a thing? Like you both just went to LA for music? Is that why you
No,
both went?
we were both in bands. Yeah,
Okay,
we just never ended up playing together in
got
bands. I
it.
should have clarified. Yeah, he was in bands. God, he's gonna laugh when he hears it. Was 69 Cents was Carl's band,
Okay,
and I was in a band called The Cursed that then grew into a band called The Statics. And I think that we were both in positions where we were kind of the babies in our bands.
okay,
Um, and having to shoulder the weight of a lot of the responsibility that our elder bandmates didn't take upon themselves. So if Carl's the drummer, and the baby in his band, part-time babysitter as well for the older members in his band, and it was very
right.
much that was a situation I was in a number of bands when I was younger, and now I think we kind of look at it much differently, being the elder statesmen in our respective bands ourselves. So it's good that he and I have kind of you know we've had a lot of career parallels, so it felt really good to come together and work on something.
Got it. No, that's great. That's great. So, I mean, I know from your bio that you moved from Hollywood back to Lancaster.
Hmm.
Um, and you did you go to Hollywood in the first place specifically for music? Just I'm going to LA because that's where it's happening, or was there
Nope.
something else that brought you there?
Nope. I left Lancaster. I moved to Washington, D.C. for college. I moved to New York City after that because that's what everybody did. And then I moved from New York City to Los Angeles simply because I wanted to experience living in California. And San Francisco was too expensive at the time in
Sure.
2008. Come to find out that it would never not be expensive again. So I ended up staying in Los Angeles and falling in love with Los Angeles and building a tremendous life for myself in Los Angeles. But believe it or not, when I moved from New York to Los Angeles, I wasn't doing music. I wasn't writing, I wasn't playing, I wasn't doing anything. I was just kind of in a musical rut and I was just working a lot. I was serving and bartending and making pretty good money and just kind of focusing on different things and traveling and backpacking around Europe and just
Sure.
doing kind of quote unquote normal things that aren't, you know, dropping all your free time and money and effort and sweat equity into a punk band. And so it was a nice respite. But once I re-entered the musical world and re-entered the songwriting part of my brain, for lack of a better term, I could not stop, and I haven't stopped. And so I'm glad that's how it turned out. But it's a long-winded way of saying no, I didn't move to Los Angeles to become famous or make it in the quote unquote industry.
Hmm.
It just so happened that I moved there and got the itch to start playing again. And coincidentally, here he comes back around, Mr. Carl Wiersbicky. I ran into him at the 99-cent store. I didn't know he was living in Hollywood at the time. He didn't know I was living in Hollywood at the time. We had just kind of lost touch. This is the age before what modern social media is now, right?
Sure.
And so we caught up and he said, "Hey, my band is playing on the Sunset Strip. Do you want to just play a few songs before we take the stage?" I thought, sure. And in a lot of ways, that was really an impetus behind me having the chutzpah, if you will, or having the tenacity to continue doing it. Because it's one thing to, play shows in a basement, in Pennsylvania, or just kind of do what I was doing when I was in college. And it's another thing to kind of, I don't know, there's gravitas, to me, there's gravitas to playing on the Sunset Strip, even if the clubs are way shittier than we've romanticized them to be. It still was
Sure.
important to me. And so I always appreciated Carl kind of giving me that olive branch. And then, yeah, we just, kept in touch. And like I said, we ended up both moving back here to Lancaster, Pennsylvania, roughly around the same time, around 2020. So it kismet. I'm
Yeah.
so happy to be working with him. Yeah.
Oh, that's great. That's great. So, is it that era then when you did those shows opening up for him, playing a few songs in his band? Is that kind of where Divided Heaven started, or was it before that?
That was where Divided Heaven restarted. One of the shows that I played with Carl's other band played. We played at the Knitting Factory in Hollywood, which isn't there anymore, unfortunately. But I met this guy Bradley Riot, and when I met him, I tell this story frequently, and he always makes fun of me. But he was very much a California dude. Yeah, dude, super stoked on your set, man. It was awesome, man. I have a studio. Dude, let's fucking make a record, man. And I thought he was just blowing smoke up my ass, and come to find out that he was telling the truth, and he is a wonderfully authentic person. But it was, a show that I played with Carl where I met Bradley, and Bradley ended up producing my first record, which is called Arrival City, and that came out in 2011, and that just kind of gave me the nudge. It was kind of like Bradley like pushed me off a cliff inadvertently and was
Hmm.
like, "All right, well, either you're gonna fly or you're gonna fall flat." And I hit a few bumps on the way down for sure, but then I started to kind of fly from there. And so I was thinking about this, and Carl and I were actually talking about this a couple weeks ago, the way in which he and I have stayed in touch and kind of reconnected, and now are working together within this new chapter of Divided Heaven.
Yeah,
And I often think about my own career in terms of longevity. I never reached the heights of success that I imagined. I think most people who get into music never reach the heights that they envision for themselves or their rock star dreams or whatever. And I think
sure.
that's okay. But I learned pretty early on that an advantage that I could have is I could be wise in my decision making, try to minimize my mistakes and maximize my efforts in a way that would provide me a career in music that rides on longevity. And I think that I've succeeded in that.
Got it. Got it. No, good for you. Good for you. Yeah, that's a that's a conundrum talking to any musician about. So what did you think success was going to look like when you were younger? It's always interesting for me to kind of, you know, hear that a little bit from artists, and just, cuz some have wild dreams and they change, of course, and they change and evolve and they ebb and flow as we grow and mature, and just the things we want are, continue to evolve and become different. But yeah, that's wonderful that you've been able to find that way to sustain that longevity piece. In your instrumentation in that first show, so when you say that you did a bunch of touring solo, are you? Is it just you and an acoustic guitar, electric guitar, or do you have I don't know, any other? Do you play with like loop pedals or synths or samples or anything like that, or is it just you and an instrument and your voice?
My voice and my guitar,
Right
sometimes
on.
electric, sometimes acoustic,
Got
but
it.
yeah, it was purposefully simplified. And it's worth noting too, I would like your listeners to know that I um tactfully yet proudly consider myself a very good singer, but I worked very hard at it. I was not a very good singer. I took voice lessons for
Hmm.
years. Um, and it's still something that I work on. I'm not a naturally inclined musician by any means. I have a natural love for music and a natural attraction to music in certain genres, and I feel like I have a pretty good feel for it, if that makes sense.
Yep.
But in terms of picking up an instrument and playing, it does not come naturally to me. It takes a lot of work, and my voice was no exception. It was probably the biggest challenge I've ever faced in music, but it was also the most fun. It was the most daunting challenge, but the most fun challenge as well. So when I play solo, I rest on those. That's the wrong way of saying it. I lean into those strengths. Whether people think about it like this, Brett, like whether people like my songs is beyond my control.
Of course.
It's subjective.
Yep.
Whether they think I'm a good singer, I think everybody who sees me perform comes away thinking that guy knows how to play guitar. That guy knows how to sing. I don't really like his songs, but he can do this, and I'll take that as a W for sure.
Sure. Got it. No, that makes a ton of sense. That makes a ton of sense. And it's also nice to hear. Yeah, I think just reflecting on my own experience with that, the problem that, or the not, it's not a problem, but it's choice of words. The challenge that I kept getting presented with over and over in songwriting, particularly as a vocalist, was I wanted to be a better singer than I was, and I didn't know how I was singing incorrectly for so long, and I didn't know any tools or tricks or really anything about it. I was just really going at it from a no way, man, like punk rock style. Like this is what I can do, and I can sing this way because my heroes can sing like this, so therefore I can too. And not really understanding range and and capability and limitations and really things that
Sure.
happen, that are different with every human being. And I have my own natural range and voice and timbre and all of that, and really have to work on my breath and my control and not getting nasal when I sing. And how do I know that, and all these things that I didn't learn inherently and tried to, I think, fake a lot along the way, like trying to just make it sound as good as it could, but knowing that the expression was sincere, but I wasn't able to really deliver it on the way that I wanted to until I started taking vocal lessons myself. And then when I
Oh,
started
cool.
working with a teacher, she really just, no, we're building your voice from the top down, which is counterintuitive. And there's so much we're going to do here that's counterintuitive. And I'm like, okay. And just really went with it. And I'm super grateful because I had a falsetto when I was 13, and then it disappeared for 30 years, and then it showed up again. And I was like, oh, wow, like I can sing in a way that I couldn't sing for a long, long time. So, I mean, I really, I, that what you're saying really resonates with me on that. And that's really good to hear. I'm
Yeah, good for you,
also,
man, for putting the work in too. I mean, give yourself the credit for that as well.
oh, thank you. No, I do. I do. It's hard. It's not easy, and it's hard to, well, and it can be expensive, and there's all kinds of barriers that can keep it going depending. But it's like my teacher was super awesome in the fact that she would just, let's get to where you need to be. What is the focus of this next thing you're doing? Okay, cool. We got 7 months to get you there. So let's get you there. And then
Hmm.
here's how to sustain, and that was all, just her approach was rad. I just was super into it. But how did, so with that, did you have all this, the vocal training and that confidence in your vocal ability and guitar playing when you were doing those first shows in LA? I mean, was that already there, or had you started that work after that point?
I had started the work before that,
Okay.
so I had that. I didn't have the control. It's a muscle. So when I decided to start playing shows again in when I was living in Los Angeles, I had the knowledge and the means to get my voice back in shape, so
Yep.
to speak,
Sure.
but I hadn't gotten it back in shape, so to speak. And I recognized that relatively recently, actually, in 2023. Um, I did a whopping 8 shows, which is a drastic reduction from my usual, 160 shows that I was doing, 8 years ago, 9 years ago, 10 years ago. But they were of higher profile. So I wanted to make sure that I was in good physical condition and good voice condition. And what I recognized was that even though I had done recordings and I had worked on certain things with my voice through, 2020 and 2021 and 2022, I was doing it conditionally. So I'd be like, all right, I need to record vocals for this song because it's going to be this single on this month. And I would do that, but then I wouldn't work beyond what that scope was. And I realized that when it came time for me to get ready to start playing shows again, it's weird to say this, Brett, but I was rusty. I had to practice standing in front of a microphone stand again. I had
Oh,
to
sure.
practice standing playing up. I just got so conditioned in the
Yeah.
pandemic times that I was doing live streams and playing, but yeah, I'm sitting on a stool and I was playing in a way that wasn't befitting what I did when I toured all the time.
Mm-hmm.
And in the process of getting ready for the shows that I played in January of 23, I did like a divided heaven boot camp. I mean, I got myself back in physical shape. I was purposefully eating better and trying to get more sleep, and a lot of vocal exercises, a lot of working on the set. I practiced holding the microphone. I practiced finger picking. I practiced my scales. I mean, you name it. I was doing everything to just improve my game. And the shows that I played in 2023, despite the decrease in volume and the amount of shows, were easily my best and the most impactful. And I had the best voice control. I hit my best falsettos. The jokes between the songs were the best they ever landed. I took the time to really craft a set, and that was something I had never actually done before. I always just kind of winged it and almost rested on the fact that I had a pretty unique and strong voice and a solid foundation of how to play the guitar in front of other human beings. But in 2023, I really pushed myself to get outside of my comfort zone and do things that were scary and in front of bigger crowds than I had ever played in front of. And that was a really exhilarating experience. And it reminded me that at other times in my career, specifically back in this 08, 09, 2010 time,
Yep.
where I thought I was like keeping myself in shape or in voice shape, I actually was cutting a lot of corners. And my late 30s, early 40s self just won't allow that to be. I have too much pride to cut corners anymore.
No, good for you, man. That's really, yeah, that's great to hear. The shows that you did in 2023, um, and I'm saying this and I'm asking this and in for the benefit of the listeners as well. Is there two questions? One, did any of those shows happen to get recorded that I could go find on YouTube? And two, if so, which one should I go find?
I think so. I mean, I played a show here in Pennsylvania with Chuck Reagan,
Wow,
um, which I mean, it was like, like a 350 cap room that was full, so that's a big show for me.
that's awesome.
And then I played a festival in Orange County with Frank Turner, and
Yep.
that was also like 400 people. I mean, I played the side stage, so it was the big stage is like 2,500. I think my side stage was like maybe 400, but it was the room was full. I honestly I don't keep track with who records what, so I'm sure there's stuff out there, but
Okay.
I don't know of the quality would be befitting. Hearing you know how I just can't speak to it,
No, fair
unfortunately.
enough. Fair
Yeah.
enough. I just didn't know if you knew, like for sure. Yes, this show got recorded because you just knew, and that's fair and fine, and I get it. And I'm super, just it's awesome. You got to play with Chuck Reagan. That's really cool. I finally got to see him live for the first time just this past weekend. I've
Oh,
never had
cool.
a chance to see him before. It wasn't solo; he was with Hot Water Music, but it was super fun. And I was like, man, like I'd been a fan of his solo stuff for a long time, and a fan of Hot Water Music, but I've always liked him and an acoustic guitar more than anything. And so it was fun to see, but then just hearing you got to do shows with him too, that's pretty great.
Yeah, he's top shelf. He's the best.
Yeah,
Yeah.
wonderful. So then, what brought you back to Pennsylvania?
I married a girl from LA that wanted to get out of LA, and she loved my hometown. So that's what we did. We moved back to my hometown at her insistence.
Nice.
Yeah, nice. I don't know. Sometimes I think it's poetic and sometimes it's tragic. I oscillate between the two. Um, I
Yeah,
I
I'm
think this
familiar
might
with
be an
that.
interesting segue back to Living Funeral, but I'll just say that I do miss living in a major city that is overwhelmingly, predominantly progressive and liberal and doesn't tolerate all that uh, hateful bullshit. And
Yeah,
so being back in a place where, like, yeah, my little city is kind of liberal, but we're in a very, very conservative area, in a very religious area.
sure.
Sometimes that really bothers me. Sometimes it doesn't, but sometimes it really it bothers me. So I kind of oscillate between a number of different emotions about being back here.
It's that's an interesting. There's a similarity there. Where my wife's parents lived in this small town outside of Greenville, South Carolina, between Clemson and Greenville, and it was a very, very
Hmm.
small town. And it was sort of the same thing. She wanted to move there for a host of reasons, so we did. But it was also that there's parts of it that were beautiful and amazing to live in the base of the Blue Ridge Mountains and to be able to ride a motorcycle through them and just to be in that sort of countryside, which was incredible and a different experience. And then there's the other side of it where I'm like, wow, I mean, being from Minneapolis, Minnesota, which is also a fairly, very progressive city, and the friends and the scenes and the folks that I would hang out with, much different experience. And so I resemble, I think, what you're talking about there. I truly connect with that. Now living in
So
Orlando,
you're in
Florida.
South Carolina now?
No, I moved. I was there for a few years,
Okay.
several years, and then I moved to Orlando last December.
Okay.
And so it's nice to be in a bigger city again. But yeah, I lived out in California. I lived in Oakland in the Bay Area and worked out there for a while. And just the being in a thriving, creative, like fiercely creative and productive place is so inspiring. And yeah, I tend to miss that. But anyway, I'm glad that you got to go back to where you're from, and that apparently you had a couple more kids that brought you out there, right? Or did you have children before? Or is this your first children that you've had were when you were in Pennsylvania?
No, it happened fast. We closed on a house in February of 2020, so really before the shit hit the fan. And
Mm-hmm.
then by the time we got here, um, we had a lot of uh, it was discovered that there was a lot of immediate sickness within my uh, a lot of sickness within my immediate family that needed our attention. So it was good that we had moved back when we did.
Yep.
And then we found out that we were pregnant with our first child. And so my son was born in 2021. And then we had a baby girl earlier this year. So we're in the thick of it. I don't know if you can hear a baby crying, but my daughter Lilith is crying her eyes out downstairs. Um, so yeah, no, the kids, and it's cool. Yeah, even though, and that's not the right way to say it. Um, we had our kids here in Pennsylvania. We did not have them in California and bring them here, but having them here allows me to have a different Lancaster, Pennsylvania experience than I did as a teenager. And I think if I was here and married, but without kids and looking at Lancaster through the same lens that I did when I was 18 in 1999, I would like it a lot less and I'd be much more resentful. Now I'm not resentful or bitter. I have those moments where I'm resentful and bitter that I didn't make enough money or I wasn't fucking successful enough to buy, a square foot of property in Los Angeles, let alone a house. But I also have my days that I'm grateful to be here. I got to spend time with my family at a very difficult time in our lives and in the world. And my kids get to be close to my family, and we have a good community here, so I'm very grateful.
No, that's wonderful. And that brings me to your kind of press photo. Which baby are you holding in that?
That's Lilith.
That's
Yeah,
Lilith.
so
Got it.
you can chalk it up to originality, but there's a reason for it. When my previous record, Oblivion, came out, one of the lead singles was a song called Burn Me, and it was about the manner in which we all give way too much credence and gravitas to people who say shitty things on comment boards, and we just give too much credo and we prop up too many stupid people on the internet, and that was my way of hitting back at all the haters. And one of the things I really have come to despise about the greater punk scene or music scene is the played out. Everybody's got a fucking beard. Everybody stands in front of a brick wall. Everybody has the same press photo where they're all wearing a different band's t-shirt.
Right.
And, it's just this weird, repetitive, like carbon copy of the previous band that sounds just like, it's almost like they're trying to out Hot Water Music themselves. They're just like cloning themselves after like how Hot Water Music looked in 1998. It's
Right.
embarrassing. I think it's stupid. So I thought, how could I be different? All right, I'm gonna hold my baby just wearing his diaper. I'm gonna not have a shirt on, and I'm gonna hold up a match with a lit flame. And if it looks cool, cool. So that's what we did. Now, all these years forward, I had plans to get new promo photos with a friend of mine in Washington, D.C. The schedules didn't come together. Double Helix Records, my wonderful new label, is breathing down my neck. We need some press photos, Jeff. Come on. And I thought, I'll just repeat the same motif with my second child, and it still will work. A lot more gray hairs on my head in this second version of the promo photo with Lilith, but I think it's befitting the song, and I think it's a if nothing else, it's a nice nod that my family and I can cherish.
No, absolutely. And thank you so much for the context and background on that. So let's then get back to the song.
Let's do it.
Tell me more about, I mean, to me, it seems fairly self-evident, but I'd love to hear it from you. Like what is the driving fire behind it that you needed to write and put this out? I mean, and I asked that way, I think because you have the way you're describing things to me, there's so much deliberate focus and placement of how you're doing this, and that's the impression I'm getting from you. Whether if I'm wrong, please correct me.
No,
But
go
I'm
for it.
hearing that where, like you're saying, like even with vocal hooks, like the way that you're writing specific things, you're focusing to create this, to make this statement, to say this statement, to create this impression on a listener. I mean, for me, that's a lot of crafting beyond just the natural songwriting that comes up, which I mean, I fully have my own experience of that. So, I mean, I understand from my perspective what that is, but I'd just love to hear it. Like why that for this?
Vinegar and Honey. This song is about January 6th. I will get into the unapologetic nature of it and break down the difference between verse one and verse two and my motifs, right? As I'm sure some of your listeners will listen to me talk about it and do a masturbation motion because I'm like waxing poetic as the songwriter. Like I get that, and I'm open to it. But I'm writing from a fiery place, from an angry place, from a place of vitriol. President Biden said that MAGA supporters were garbage yesterday or today, and now he's backtracking, and Kamala Harris has to apologize for it. He's fucking right. They're garbage. I'm not going to apologize for it because I've seen and heard what they've said to me and things about me and people in my family. So it's like the thing from 2016 where Hillary Clinton said, "Oh, the basket of deplorables," and then she had to apologize, and it's as if we hold certain politicians to a higher standard to not say stupid things. And then Orange Man says a whole myriad of stupid things and insulting things and degrading things, and he gets a pass. So I look at that as a landscape and I say, okay, there is no high road. Comedians, late night talk show hosts, they try to take a funny high road to always show how Voldemort is the worst person ever, and they try to make him look stupid, and it's all for a laugh. And I put up, shh, I'm not a comedian. That's not my thing.
Mm-hmm.
So, Brett, what I try to do is go lower than low and be unapologetic about it, but also be catchy about it. So the vinegar is the vitriol that I'm spitting in my lyrics. The honey is that I'm trying to make what I'm singing memorable and catchy enough that people want to sing along because it is a song after all. It's not a painting. It's not something that can be you walk into a room in a museum and you're like, I have 3 minutes and 30-ish seconds to try to hit you with something with everything you're going to watch and listen to all fucking day. The 3 minutes and 30 seconds that somebody gives to Divided Heaven for this song, I want to leave them with something that is lasting and memorable that they might, like at the beginning of our conversation, they might sing back to themselves later.
Yep.
And so that's the aspect of Honey and Vinegar, in so much as I want people to be attracted to the song in a natural, musical way. And then if I can entice them with my lyrics or what I'm singing about or the message gets through, then that's an added bonus. But I'm deliberate. If and I didn't know if you had a follow up, but we can get into the specifics of the lyrics now or whatever. I'll follow your lead on that, but I didn't want to jump too far ahead.
No, go ahead. No, go ahead. I mean, yeah, I wanted to hear and continue with that in the same sort of breadth of what you're doing. So, I mean, when you talk about it being about January 6th, right? I mean, it's like I love the second verse so much. It's just so great. And the first verse as well. But it's like I get what you're saying. But I mean, yeah, I mean, if you had specific, if there's sort of specific narratives you're trying to convey, I mean, by all means, please share that.
Yeah, I mean, the verses kind of take different approaches, but like I alluded to this earlier, but like my dad was dying of cancer, and I
Mm.
was taking him to and from his chemo appointments. And I remember I was actually on the phone with Jen from the Bomb Pops as it started, as the riot and insurrection started to unfold. And we were talking about something that on a song that we were working together, and I was just like, girl, good to talk to you, but I gotta get the fuck off the phone. And I went and watched this unfold on television with my dad. And my dad was never a Trumper, but he was a lifelong Republican, and I think that it like scared him. It's an interesting dynamic to see your parent frightened. And anytime I've ever seen either of my parents afraid, like it's always really, really struck a deep nerve with me.
Yeah.
And my dad watched that and was like visibly like fearful, and then so was I, obviously. And it was not to make light of it, but it kind of reminded me of a aspect of a Twilight Zone episode, or institutionalized by suicidal tendencies, where it's
Sure.
like, you're crazy. This is crazy. I'm not crazy. Don't tell me I'm crazy for thinking this is crazy. This is objectively crazy. And the way that it played out that day, yes, it's crazy. This is horrible. The way it played out over the next few weeks until Biden was inaugurated, yes, this is crazy. This was terrible. This was awful. This was a terrorist attack. This was this. This was that. And then there was just this recession and this walking back, and the Ted Cruzes of the world and the Donald Trumps of the world, and other of his you know fanatical and sycophants. They just kept walking it back. And I would say to myself, I'm not a fan of Mr. Mike Pence, but I didn't want to see him hanged that day, but that was the intention. And let's
Right.
not kid ourselves into thinking that it wasn't. So as we were approaching this election, and I knew I wasn't going to have, this is really inside baseball, but I knew I wasn't going to have a new record ready for this fall. But I would have this single ready. It was important to me personally and professionally to put out a political, fiery song of this nature about January 6th, this specific topic, before this election, in the off chance, the off slimmest fucking chance, Brett, that what I have to say will remind somebody of what Orange Man helped make happen on January 6th, and they vote for Harris instead. It's a lofty goal, but that's the fucking goal of the song, is to remind people who either have forgotten, who wanted to forget, or let's not remember, we're old now, Brett. Presumably 4 years is like a blink of an eye.
For sure.
4 years is like an eternity for somebody who just turned 18 from when they were 14 when this happened.
Oh yeah.
So maybe it didn't register to them in the same way. And that younger demographic is not my targeted age, according to all the analytics that I have available to me as an artist. Those are typically, I'm not resonating with Gen Z very much, and that's okay. Uh, but fuck, man, I'm still gonna try.
Yep.
I'm still gonna try. And you spoke to the different verses. One verse is specifically about the the poor who support Orange Man, and the way in which that they do what they do for somebody who is like a cult of personality, a celebrity. He doesn't give a fuck about them. And their ignorance to that shouldn't be my problem, but because they have the ability to put him back in power, it does make it my problem. So I targeted them in one of the verses. And then in the other verse, I targeted the very wealthy people who should fucking know better. And maybe, they weren't doing that because they wanted a fucking tax cut. Again, they were doing it because it's a cult and they bought into it full on. So there's a Trump Messiah complex where he's Jesusified. I'm going to sing about that. There's this whole aspect of uh, women in the MAGA movement that want to fuck the dude. I'm going to sing about that, and I'm going to sing about cum unapologetically. I'm just going to go for as low as I fucking can go in order to just paint a realistic picture lyrically with how I view this part in our history. Because so often everybody tries to play it proper The pundits try to play it proper, politicians try to play it proper, our neighbors want to play it proper, and it's not a proper event. Let's speak to the reality of the darkness of this. Let's speak to the reality of the dirt about this. This is a strange thing, and then I'll let you get a word in. But one of the one of the topics, and no, this isn't a strange thing. This will give your listeners and you an insight into how I think about these things.
Awesome.
When I was in college, I was in a class that was taught by a Holocaust survivor, and it set in motion for me in my professional life, me working at a Holocaust museum in Los Angeles and being involved in with work with various Holocaust survivors and getting, setting up speaking engagements and all of that. That's something that's personal and part of my professional background.
Hmm.
But when I was in college, I was in a class with Arne Lustig, who passed away about 10 years ago or 12 years ago, and he was a survivor, and he wanted us to go to the National Holocaust Museum. This was in Washington,
Hmm.
and just write about it. And one of my classmates, I wish I remembered her name, but he asked her to read her essay aloud, and she read it aloud, and she said in her essay, "I told my father, who's a second generation survivor, so the child of a Holocaust survivor, she said, I told my father that, I was prompted to go to this museum and then write about it. And my father said that um, they should take everything out of the museum and just fill the entire building with blood and shit and piss and pus. And that would be a more befitting example of what people actually lived through than a bunch of empty suitcases, old shoes, and a train car sitting in an empty room." And I thought, whoa, I never put it that way before. I never allowed myself to think about the subject on such a visceral, realistic, harrowing level. I always thought about the Holocaust and genocide in general in an academic sense. And hearing my classmate say this quote from her father within her essay opened up a means in me of wanting to communicate in a realistic way, as uncomfortable as it might be for people, when it comes to ugly portions of our shared and collective history. And that's where we ended up with January 6th and me singing about cum.
Perfect ending
Aren't
on
you
that.
glad you asked?
Fuck yeah, man. No, that's great. Yeah. And I applaud you for doing it. I really do. I think that I just always love to I love that deliberate intent, and frankly that lights a fire for me because I want to get this edited and out as quick as I can. Um to kind of help further that sentiment of why you released this song when you did, and to honor that, because I mean I think it's an incredible song, and I would love for as many people to hear it as quickly as possible, if I can help facilitate that in any way.
Yeah, thank you very much. I appreciate the kind words and I thank you for the platform for sure. Yeah.
Well, good. So this song was released as a single on October 3rd, 23rd. Is that right?
Yes. A
Okay.
week ago today. A week ago yesterday. A week
Awesome.
ago today. Yes.
Well, congratulations on your new release.
Thank you.
And to that end, where is the best place for listeners to go buy it, get it, support you, support the cause?
Well, Brett, if anyone listening types in the words divided heaven into the Google machine,
The
they will
Google
either end
machine.
up at a film,
Right.
a German film from the 60s about a love affair during the Cold War, or you're going to see my ugly mug and have access to all of my social media. Again,
Cool.
at whatever your streaming platform of choice or social media of choice, just type in Divided Heaven and you can easily find me. Now, this song, I suppose if you want to buy it old school on iTunes, you can do that. I know that you can do that, but it will be on the new Divided Heaven record that comes out in the fall of 2025 that I'm currently working on. So, for your listeners that are turned on by this song and or drawn to this song, I should say, and then are more interested in me as an artist, I would encourage y'all to check out my past records, but also, dog ear little spot in your brain for when the new record comes out, because I'm a firm believer in the next one is the best one, and that's how we do it.
Awesome. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Right on, man. Well, Jeff, it's been wonderful chatting with you about everything that we've talked about, which we seem to cover a lot of ground. And I really appreciate your openness and transparency and candor. And I sure look forward to hearing your next record that's coming out and diving back into your older catalog, which I personally haven't heard, but look forward to digging into. And yeah, man, it's just been a great pleasure having you on the show. And I look forward to seeing you again or talking with you again.
Thank you very much, Brett. Appreciate it.
Three Crows Club presents B-side breakdown.
Church bells woke me up, flooded with childhood thoughts. I cast away the long remains, decay beneath the evergreen. Church bells.
All right, and that wraps up another episode of the B-Side Breakdown. I want to thank Jeff Berman for coming on to talk about the Divided Heaven song, Living Funeral. In the background, you're hearing a song called Church Bells from the band Night Windows. If you like what you're hearing, go back and listen to the previous episode because that was the focus of it. Up next is a song from a band called Via Sky, and the song is called Lullaby. I'll give you a snippet of them at the end of this episode. In the meantime, I want to thank Carrie Bozel and Adam Coulong for helping me put together the jingle you hear at the beginning and the end of this episode. Also, please subscribe to this podcast wherever you get your podcast, and I can't thank you enough for your ongoing support. Please stay safe until the next one, and we'll catch up then. Thanks again.
It's hard to breathe. Left praying for a remedy. Eyes wide, afraid to sleep. Please God, grant me serenity.